All right, welcome to the next module on getting your membership site set up and making sales within 30 days. So in this module, we're going to talk about creating the content, because I know that, in the type of business that this is, especially if it's information product based, a lot of people get intimidated by the idea of how do I provide enough content to give value to the people who subscribe to my membership site, especially if you've spent a lot of time writing a book or creating a video training and you're selling that, and now you're saying, well, how am I going to add another membership site? How am I going to come up with more content? So in this module, we're going to go through some of the easiest ways to get content created for your site. So how to create content easily. So the first way that you can create content very easily is by interviewing experts. Now, 9 years ago, when I started my first product, my membership was called the Social Training Lab. Now, I still have a membership site called the Social Training Lab, but I've updated the content, and now it's a lot of my own content. But at the time, because I wanted to get a membership site off the ground very quickly, and also because at the time I was still sort of a student of what I was teaching, so I actually enjoyed interviewing these experts because I would learn a lot from them. So how do you do that, right? How do you make this into a viable membership site by interviewing people? Well, the first couple things that you want to understand about interviewing experts for a membership site. One is that because of the advent of podcasts, interviews themselves are not seen as valuable, right? So back when I did this in 2008, there weren't a lot of podcasts out there. There weren't a lot of people listening to podcasts. So when I was interviewing these dating experts, people enjoyed it, right? Because there was nowhere else to get that information for free. So they were happily paying, $19.95 a month to get a new interview every week. But nowadays, because podcasts are so prevalent, people really don't want to pay for interviews. However, there is a way to get around this. And it's by interviewing experts, but positioning it as an audio class. So instead of just randomly calling up and getting on the phone and interviewing a weight loss expert and saying, hey, I'm going to talk to so-and-so about weight loss, and interview them. Instead of doing it that way, you would position it as a audio class on a specific topic. So maybe you'll interview an expert, but you'll call it an audio class on the ketogenic diet. And you'll spend the entire class, the entire audio, talking about very specific things. Because normally when people think of interviews, a lot of time is spent getting the history of the expert and then telling their story and asking a lot of very basic questions. And generally in those kind of interviews, there's only one or two actionable tips. And that's why they don't really have a lot of perceived value. But when you do an audio class and you position it like we're going to go deep on one topic, then it is more valuable. So I've done this myself, where I still do interviews with experts in the dating advice world, but I position them as audio classes, and I try to find one topic that we'll discuss. So maybe I'll do an entire audio on how to have a good first date, or I'll do an entire audio on how to gain confidence, or an entire audio on texting, or I pick one topic, and then instead of saying you get an interview every month, I say you get an audio class every month. So positioning interviews as audio classes lump up their value. People are more willing to accept that they're paying every month for an audio class than they are for an interview. So the next question is, how do you find people to interview? This is actually a lot easier than you think, because I can tell you, as somebody who has my own product, I'm always open to do interviews, because if somebody contacts me and says, I have a members area, people are paying me $20 a month, and I need somebody to interview, I am more than happy to provide an interview for that person, because I know that their customers will be hearing me. And I know that I provide really good information, and I know that more than likely, at least some of them will then go to my page and buy my products. And all experts think like this. They know that the way to get the word out there is to get in front of customers. And so if you contact them and you say that you're going to put them in front of your customers in your members area, many of them, I'm not going to say every single one, some people are busy, some people, there's different reasons why people might say no, but the majority of experts out there are more than willing to jump on the phone with you. So if you're doing a product if you're doing a members area on gardening, you can go and find all the top gardening products or gardening books on Amazon, and you can contact the authors or the creators of those products, ask them to get on the phone with you and interview them. But try to find out what their expertise is and do it around that. So you would contact them and say, hey, I noticed that you're really good at growing tomatoes. Can you come on and can you teach a lesson to my audience on how to grow the perfect tomato? And then maybe the next author you would contact, and you would see that they have a really good system for making their vegetables grow bigger. I don't know much about gardening, as you can see. So maybe you would do an audio class with them on how to double the size of your vegetables. And then you'd find another expert, and you would position them as audio classes on specific topics. So that is one way to create content easily. Another way is to interview and then transcribe into a PDF. So a lot of times like I mentioned, that interviews themselves have become a little more of a commodity now because of podcasts and iTunes and the ability to find so many free interviews out there. So one thing that you can do is you can interview an expert, and then you can take the transcripts of that interview and kind of turn it into a mini report. So if you do an interview with an expert on growing the perfect tomato, you can transcribe that interview, meaning you send it to a transcription service like Rev.com is a good one, SpeechPad is a good one, and I'll leave resources underneath all these videos, anything that I mention, and you can get that transcribed. So if the interview is an hour long, that's generally about 15 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages. It generally comes out to about $1 a minute. So an interview, an hour-long interview would cost you $60 to transcribe. And then you would go in and you would clean it up, maybe add some graphics to it. And now you have a report and an interview to give out. So you have the option of, turning it into a report, so that some months you give them a PDF, some months you give them the interview. There's a lot of different options you have, because here's the thing. You want to try, if you've subscribed to any of my memberships sites, what you see is that 1 month I will give an audio, 1 month I will give a PDF, 1 month I will give a video. And the reason that I do it that way is because everybody has a preference. Some people want an audio that they can pop on their headphones and listen to on the gym. Some people like video. They learn by kind of looking at things. They learn by watching, and they like to sit in front of their computer and kind of zone out to a video. Other people like to read, and they're not going to watch videos. They don't have time to listen to podcasts, so they want a PDF that they can scan through. So that's why a good thing to do if you have a membership is make sure you're giving them a few varieties of ways to consume your material. That will make people stay in your membership longer, because if somebody doesn't have the time to listen to audio, if you don't go to the gym or you don't have a long trip to work where you can listen to it in the car, it's kind of hard to listen to audio. So if all your material is audio, you're going to lose some people because they're going to never have time. So if you transcribe it, now you have people who, they might not listen to it, but they can read it, and then they look forward to that new PDF every month. So let's talk about other ways. Hire expert ghostwriters. So this is another way that you can create content easily. So if you're the type of person who you created your product, but you don't really want to spend more time writing, and you don't really have more things to talk about, there are websites you can go to, and again, I'll link to them below, where you can hire experts on certain topics and you can have them ghostwrite the material for you. So I know people who have products in health and fitness, and they don't have the time to come up with new content. So they find health and fitness experts and they pay them to write, newsletters for them every month that they give out as part of their subscription, or they hire them to do videos like this. I know a friend of mine has a dog training business, and he's not actually a dog trainer. He hired an expert who does dog training, and he has a membership program where she creates a video every month of her, teaching the dog a new trick or teaching, some new discipline to the dog, and that's what the membership is. And he's not creating any of the content. His expert is creating it all. And that's a really easy way. It's not as cost efficient as doing it yourself because you have to pay these writers, whereas interviewing experts, most experts will do this for free. Most people they want the publicity, so they're more than willing to do an interview with you. Hiring ghostwriters will cost you a little bit more money, but it also allows you to be a lot more hands-off, and you get, custom material for your members area. So another way to create content for your members area is to create like a weekly PowerPoint video. So this video itself is a PowerPoint video. If you look here, if you see, all this is a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm recording my screen, and you go up here and you go, play from current slide, it brings me back here. These are a really easy way to create content because it doesn't require you getting in front of a camera and having to, use a green screen or how to get a good location. And filming, if you don't have, I have a studio set up in my house. So for me to film is relatively easy. But years ago, before I had a studio, it was kind of hard because you'd have to get the lighting right, you have to get the sound right, and then you'd have to find a really good editor to edit it. Whereas these PowerPoint videos, which a lot of people actually like these videos more because it gives them the ability to read and look at things, and they don't get distracted by you and the way you look or things this is a great way. And what I found with PowerPoint videos is you can just kind of go deeper, right, each week on a topic. So let's take this, right? Let's say I was selling this course, and I was selling this course for $97. And this course is all about how to create a membership program, right? And anybody who gets this course, they're going to have a complete outline of how to create this membership program, start to finish, right? However, what I could do if I wanted to turn this into a membership program of its own is then do individual lessons on specific things, right? So interviewing experts could then become its own video that I give you, where I talk about the best questions to ask the experts, where to find the experts, how to position yourself, what kind of email should you send them. Now, these are all things that don't necessarily fit into this program because this is a more overview program. But if I wanted to if you wanted to do an expanding knowledge and I wanted to continue teaching different things, then interviewing experts could be its own module, right? I can create another video like this all about interviewing experts. I can do the same thing about hiring expert ghostwriters. I can do, a 10, 15-minute video where I walk you through how to interview the ghostwriters, how to check their credentials, how to outline, the topics that you want them to write about. That's an entirely new training. So even weekly PowerPoint videos, like I can create a video on how to create PowerPoint videos where I teach you what software to use. I teach you, the best way to set up the content, how to edit it. So, here's another one, weekly coaching, telling seminars, and sending out the recording. So, Dave, cut that, move it back a little bit. Let's just go back to there. I want to finish that thought. So, weekly PowerPoint videos are really good because in your course, anytime you create a course, you're going to go through everything kind of quick because you don't want the course to be 20 hours long, right? Like I can literally spend, if I wanted to talk about interviewing experts, that could be an entire training on its own. So an easy way to come up with content is to pull out things like that, right? So weekly PowerPoint videos are a great way to come up with content easily, because if you go through your program, you'll find things that you mention that you don't go deep in, because the fact is, with a training like this, you can't go deep on everything. If you go deep on everything, the training will be like 20 hours long. So you can find things like, I'm looking at here, interview experts, and that could be its own training. How to transcribe and turn it into a PDF. So I can create a whole training on how to design the cover for your PDF, how to edit audio to make it read better, because if you're transcribing in an interview, you've got to know how to change it into something that is readable, because obviously audio, the way we talk, there's a lot of pauses and ums and and you got to learn how to eliminate that and make it flow like a book, as opposed to as if you're reading what somebody's saying. So that could be its own training. All of these could be their own training. So as you can see, it's very easy to come up with your own weekly PowerPoint video, and these are really easy to create. I mean, literally, it's a $100 software and PowerPoint, which is a Microsoft Word PowerPoint. You can use, if you use Mac, you can use, I think it's called, I don't know what Mac's is called. I have a Mac too, but I just don't know what I prefer PowerPoint. But so how else can you create content? Weekly coaching teleseminars, and then sending out the recordings. So maybe you don't want to hire experts. Maybe you don't want to create these type of videos. What you can do is all of your members can have access to a conference line, and you can choose one day a week. Maybe it's Wednesday nights. Every Wednesday night, you come on the conference line and you teach a new lesson. And people have access to that call-in. Every week you send out, hey, here's the call-in information for this week. They call in. Maybe they ask you questions, right? A lot of times you teach a little bit of a lesson for like 20 minutes, and then you say, does anybody have questions? And you take questions. And then, because not everybody's going to be able to make the teleseminar, you record it, and then you send out the recording to all your members, and that way, even if they couldn't be there live, they still get the recording. This is a great way to come up with content, because there's something about live that has a higher perceived value. So if you teach a lesson and you record it, people don't value that as much as the opportunity to hear you and call up and be on, a call with you and actually have the opportunity to ask you questions. So that's a really easy way to create content quickly, is recording a teleseminar, sending out the recording, but also giving the people opportunities to come there live. I mean, that is if you're doing weekly coaching teleseminars, it increases the value of your members area, right? Of your membership program. And in that case, what's great about that is you don't even need a website, right? Because you're doing these conference calls, and all you have to do is email out people links or the recording of it, right? So that from a technical standpoint is a really easy way to come up with this content. Obviously, a lot of these things vary on the topic you're teaching, right? So a weekly coaching teleseminar on certain topics is going to be a lot easier than on other topics. All right, so your assignment. Your first assignment is to map out 8 months worth of content, either weekly or monthly. And what I mean by that is you need to decide, do you want to give them something new every week, or do you want to give them something new once a month? Both ways are equally as good. I give them something new every week because I just feel like the perceived value is higher when they're getting something every week, as opposed to, it's 4 things instead of 1 thing. But a lot of membership sites is only 1 new thing a month, right? A newsletter, 1 new newsletter a month. And if it's a really high quality thing you're giving them every month, it's not going to matter. If the customer likes it, some people actually prefer 1 thing a month because it's less, people are busy. They don't have time every week to go through your material. So if you're giving them like 1 hour long video that's really amazing per month versus 4 other videos, they'd actually almost prefer the 1 hour long video. That way they only have to spend an hour a month to get educated, as opposed to, every week having to make time to watch your videos. So you want to map out the content, right? 8 months worth of content. I chose 8 months because personally, most of my member sites end after 8 months automatically, because I just don't want the responsibility of having to come up with new content. So map out 8 months, and you can kind of look at your product and say to yourself, well, what would be the natural progression that somebody would need to go through over the course of 8 months to really learn everything that I know. So, for instance, in my dating advice one, my social training lab, I start off with some mindset stuff, because I know that in order for a guy to get results in his dating life, he's got to understand some core mindsets. So the first month is all about these mindsets. Then the next month might be about approaching women, because now the next step you're going to do if you're going to get better at women is to approach women. So I might do a month all about approaching women, where one lesson could be on what to say, another lesson could be on where to meet them, where to go, another lesson could be on how to keep a conversation going. So then the third month, I would say, okay, month 3, we've gotten the attitude, we're now approaching women. How do you create attraction when you're having these conversations? So month 3, I might do 4 lessons on creating attraction during a conversation. Then month 4, I'll say, okay, you created attraction, now what? That might be how to get the date, how to ask for the number, So you see what I did there? Like, I took the topic of improving your dating life, and I broke it into eight different modules, and each one can be its own month. So what I want you to do now is think of what your member area is going to be and break out 8 months worth of content. Now here's the next step, right? Because I want you to get your membership site off the ground in the next 30 days. So develop 8 weeks or 2 months worth of content, right? If you're going to give, if weekly, it's going to be 8 weeks. If you're going to do monthly, it's 2 months worth of content. Because you want to have content in advance, because you don't want to, you need to give yourself some breathing room. You don't want to launch a membership site and not have any content in there. I've launched it in the past with 2 months, because that gives you 2 months to come up with additional content. So what I would say is, whether you're going to do interviewing experts or videos like this or teleseminars you can actually do weekly, because as long as you're prepared with the material. So maybe with a teleseminar, because you can't do it in advance, you can create your outline of what you're going to talk about at the teleseminar in advance. And get that content done. First off, it'll give you a little bit of a boost. It'll motivate you a little bit when you have the content ready. And also, it then kind of buys you time to start selling your members area and then create the additional content, instead of thinking, how am I going to create, a year worth of content. Finally, add the content to your members area or your autoresponder. So by now, I want you to have set up some sort of members area, or if you want to go the really easy, low-key route, you have an autoresponder provider. Again, I can give you links below to these things if your different membership softwares and different autoresponder providers. And you have these things, and you begin adding your content to them. So to give you an idea, my first members area was the Social Training Lab back in the day, and I did interviews. So all I did was put a page out. I created a page on WordPress, and I hid that page from Google. And it's very simple. You just check do not index. That means Google cannot index that page, so people won't find it in Google. And then I give it a really random URL. So it might be like socialtraininglab.com/XXX0000. So nobody's going to find it. And then all you do is, in your members area, in your autoresponder, you write an email saying, here's week 1's content. It's all about blah, 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 blah. And then you link to that page. And then you program your autoresponder you put another email in, and it goes to week 2's content, and you set it not to send that out for another 7 days. So after 7 days, that next email will be sent out that'll say, here's week 2's content. This week is all about, growing tomatoes, and it'll give you a link to that. And then 7 days later, you set it so that another email automatically goes out that says, here's week 3's content, and this is an interview with whatever. So it's really simple to do that way. Now, if you have a members area, you just go in and you set it, the content up, you put all the content in there, and then most members areas will give you the ability to drip content, meaning you can set it so that every 7 days new content appears in the members area. If you've ever been in my members area, you'll see that content will be grayed out until you've reached that. So you might see that there's a link for week 4, but if you're only in week 3, you won't be able to click that link. And then on week 4, it automatically opens up, and then you can click it. So that is your assignment. Couple things to keep in mind is that you don't want to overthink this, right? You really don't. I mean, a lot of people get caught up and they say, well, what happens if somebody cancels? How do I make it so that they don't get the emails anymore with the links to the lessons? Here's the thing, right? All of that can be done. I do it. It requires some programming. It's not hard, but here's the thing. If you're just starting out, don't worry about those things. If somebody is getting your emails and they canceled and now they're getting them for free, who cares? You have to get out of that scarcity mentality. It doesn't matter. Like for years, I didn't have it canceling people who they would buy my product, they would cancel, and I didn't have something set up that would stop them from getting the emails. So they would continue getting the emails long after they canceled. And you know what? I really didn't care because other people were getting them. They were paying. It was fine. The people who canceled, they probably weren't looking at them anyway, so it wasn't like they were getting them for free. And I'm sure some people were happy to get them, but most people, they didn't want them, so it wasn't the end of the world. They could easily hit unsubscribe and not get them if they really didn't want them. So don't think about that. Don't think from a scarcity mentality like that. Think about what is the simplest way I can get a membership site up and making money, and I'm giving you the simplest way to do it. So this is your assignment. Get started, get the content mapped out, and get at least 2 months scheduled into your autoresponder or your members area.